It's more than 13,000 rent-stabilized apartments across the city were empty for at least a year. That's about 1.5% of stabilized housing. The Independent Budget Office, a report comes amid a debate over whether landlords are actually holding apartments offline deliberately. NY1's Nia Clark takes a deeper look at this story.
If it were not for rent-stabilized apartments, many New Yorkers simply would not be able to afford to live in the city.
My husband and I are both retired and on fixed incomes, so that's the answer. That's how we're able to stay, because it is rent stabilized.
There are nearly 900,000 rent-stabilized units in the city. A board each year limits how much landlords can raise rents. For almost all of the rest, owners can charge whatever they want.
The rents do go up a lot, and it's getting more and more difficult for people to find affordable housing.
A new report by the Independent Budget Office, though, shows it may be difficult, at least in part, because more than 13,000 rent-stabilized apartments were kept vacant in 2020 through 2021. For more than a year, about 1.5% of the city's stabilized housing stock.
Apartments that in consecutive years are vacant. That indicates something else is happening with this apartment. Why is it not being rented?
The IBO does not answer that question, but many landlords have complained that the cost of renovating a long-occupied, rent-stabilized apartment that becomes vacant is just too expensive and would not be profitable.
New laws have come into place, lead abatement, etc., that are required now that weren't required 30 or 40 years ago when some of these apartments were occupied. So when the person leaves, all this new work needs to be done to rent it to the next person. If that work isn't done, you can't rent it out.
The IBO's findings come after criticism by elected leaders and housing advocates that landlords are, quote, warehousing tens of thousands of units to reduce supply to force legislative changes. The Community Housing Improvement Program, which represents landlords, maintains the number of rent-stabilized units left vacant will continue to increase because new state laws prevent owners from increasing rents enough to pay for required improvements. But the study shows most rent-stabilized apartments that become vacant are rented out within a year, 37,000, in maroon on this chart here. A normal turnaround, says the IBO, something those we spoke with want to see.
Just so people have a place to live, it's you just have to look on the streets, and you see. It's sad.
Now, more work needs to be done to determine why vacant rent-stabilized apartments are not being rented out. That's not something that the IBO's report answers. Reporting from Manhattan, Nia Clark, New York 1.